Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're really excited to be taking a close look at USA Fencing's Fencing the Gap initiative.
It's a really fascinating program, and they've just launched their third year, so there's a lot to unpack.
Exactly. For anyone new to Fencing the Gap, maybe you could give us a quick rundown of what it's all about.
Absolutely. So FTG is all about making fencing accessible to everyone, no matter their background.
And they're specifically trying to increase participation from a few key groups, right?
That's right. We're talking about BIPOC individuals, women and girls, and people with disabilities.
Now, what's always impressed me about Fencing the Gap is that they're not just talking the talk. They're really putting their money where their mouth is, wouldn't you say?
100%. This year, they've partnered with All Kids Play and have secured a whopping $47,000 to support their initiatives for the 2024-25 year.
$47,000. That's incredible. Just to give our listeners an idea of the kind of impact that can have, how many people did FTG reach last year?
Last year, they worked with over 650 individuals.
Wow. So this year is on track to be even bigger.
It seems like it, and it's very much needed. For a long time, fencing has been seen as this exclusive, expensive sport.
Which is such a shame because it really shouldn't be that way.
I agree. And initiatives like FTG are so important for breaking down those barriers and creating a more level playing field. It's about showing people that fencing can be for everyone.
That's exactly it. And it's not just about getting people in the door, right? They have this whole multi-pronged approach with different programs. It's fascinating.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so effective. They're not just focused on the athletes themselves, but also on building a supportive environment from top to bottom.
I'm really curious to hear more about that. What are some of those systemic issues that FTG is working so hard to address?
Well, we're talking about financial assistance, a lack of opportunities in underserved areas, and even the need for greater diversity among coaching staff.
All incredibly important factors. So where does FTG focus its efforts within those areas?
So one of the big things FTG focuses on is making sure that financial hardship doesn't prevent a talented athlete from pursuing fencing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's where their GRACE program comes in, right?
Exactly.
I'm looking at some notes about it here, but maybe you could give our listeners a little more insight into what the program actually does.
Sure. So, life throws curveballs sometimes.
Right.
People lose jobs. Maybe there's a family emergency or unexpected medical bills suddenly. Fencing fees can feel like an impossible expense.
Absolutely. It's easy to forget that real life doesn't stop just because you're passionate about a sport.
Right. And that's where the GRACE program steps in to help fencers and their families navigate those unexpected financial burdens and make sure those talented athletes can stay on track.
So it's a safety net that ensures these athletes aren't sidelined due to circumstances beyond their control.
I love that. But how do we even get kids involved in the first place, especially in communities where fencing might not be easily accessible?
You're right to bring that up because access is key. And FTG recognizes that creating opportunities in underserved communities is crucial. That's where their Community Impact Fund comes into play. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
We're talking $2,000 grants to help launch new fencing programs or support coaches from diverse backgrounds, all within these communities that really need it.
That's incredible. That kind of funding, right there at the grassroots level, can make a world of difference. Just imagine the impact a young person discovers fencing through one of these programs and ends up competing on a national level. It's really about breaking down those geographic barriers, isn't it?
It really is. And it's not just about making the sport accessible, but also making sure that it's welcoming and representative at every level.
And that's so important, especially for young athletes. Representation matters.
Mhm.
And FTG actually addresses that with their Diverse Coaches Grant, right?
You got it.
I always love hearing about this one.
This grant is all about bringing in fresh perspectives, new voices into the world of fencing coaching.
I see. So it's about fostering a new generation of coaches who better reflect the diversity we want to see in the sport.
Exactly. The aim is to create this cycle of mentorship and support, opening doors for individuals who might not have even considered coaching as a possibility before.
And I think it's fantastic how this program empowers existing fencing clubs to be part of the solution. They can actually apply for funding to host these community clinics, which is amazing, for introducing fencing to a wider audience. Then they can use those funds to train coaches from underrepresented backgrounds. Talk about a win-win. But even with all these programs, cost can still be a huge barrier.
You're absolutely right. And that's precisely where FTG's support fund scholarships come into play.
This program specifically supports BIPOC individuals who want to pursue their fencing dreams, whether they're just starting out or aiming for the Olympics. It's amazing. But can you tell me more about who this is actually designed for?
Well, that's the beauty of this program. It's not limited to just the athletes. Parents, coaches, really anyone who plays a vital role in an athlete's development can apply. It recognizes that support systems are essential, and it aims to empower everyone involved.
I mean, it's really remarkable how much thought and care have gone into creating these programs. They've really covered all the bases, wouldn't you agree? It's amazing, isn't it? They really have thought of everything. But I'm curious, how do all these programs actually work together? I mean, it seems like it could be easy to get lost with so many individual initiatives?
Well, that's where FTG's approach really shines. These programs aren't isolated, they're all interconnected. They've created this really amazing ecosystem of support.
Okay, now you've got me really interested, so paint me a picture. How does it work? Give me an example.
Okay, so imagine a young fencer. They're from an under-resourced community, right?
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, the Community Impact Fund, that could help set up a fencing program right there in their neighborhood, maybe even at their school.
Wow, right from the get-go. That's incredible.
Right. And then on top of that, the Diverse Coaches Grant, well, that could make sure that this program is led by someone who really understands their background, someone who can
Mm.
be a mentor on and off the piste.
It's like you're breaking down barriers one by one and creating this clear path for them.
Exactly. And let's say down the line, there's a financial hardship.
Which, let's face it, happens all too often.
Exactly. Well, that's where the GRACE program or a support fund scholarship could come in to help them stay on track, to make sure their talent and dedication aren't held back by things outside their control. It's that wraparound support that can be life-changing.
It's not just about opening the door, it's about giving them what they need to really succeed in the long run. It becomes about way more than just fencing at that point, what'd you say?
Absolutely. We're talking about building confidence, developing leadership skills, breaking down stereotypes. These are things that go way beyond the fencing piece. It's about learning to overcome obstacles, to persevere, to become leaders.
What's so powerful about this whole thing is it gets you thinking, this model, it can be applied to so many things. I mean, other sports, different industries even. Imagine the impact we could have if we approached everything with this level of intention, this kind of strategic thinking.
It's inspiring, right? And it all comes back to this idea that inclusivity isn't the finish line, it's the journey. And it takes effort. It means constantly questioning, challenging the way things are, and actively creating spaces where everyone feels seen, heard, and empowered. Initiatives like Fencing the Gap, they're not just changing a sport, they're offering a way forward for a better future, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's a blueprint for positive change. And that's something we're thinking about. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive, everyone.